Hi friends, it's Amy. Welcome to my bookish life. Today it's time to go through the 20 books that I read during the month of March. So let's get to it. All right, so let's start with some stats. As I said, I read 20 books. 18 of them were fiction and 2 of them were nonfiction. My nonfiction numbers are going up. 2 of them were for an adult audience and 18 were middle grade. 13 I had physical copies, 3 I had digital copies, and 11 I had audiobook format. I had a grand total of 6,504 pages read this month, which came out to 325.2 pages per book, 209.8 pages per day, and I gave my books an average rating of 4.25 stars. My range for star ratings this month went from 5 stars to 2.5 stars. So let's look at these books. The first book that I finished in the month of March was Out of My Heart by Sharon Draper. I really liked this book. It is the sequel to Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. It follows Melody, who has cerebral palsy and is nonverbal due to her cerebral palsy. However, she is super smart. In Out of My Mind, she finds a way to share her voice with the people around her, even though she can't speak. In Out of My Heart, she decides that she wants to go to a summer camp. And so she does the research to find a place that can accommodate her with her needs. And she finds one, and we get to go along for the ride to summer camp. And it is really fun. Love the characters that we meet in Out of My Heart. It was just a beautiful story, and it was a lot of fun to see Melody again. She's just a really great character. I love her. The next book that I finished in the month of March is Dead End in Norvelt by Jack Gantos, and I did not like this book. This is a middle grade historical fiction. It is historical fiction based on the true life of Jack Gantos. And normally I really enjoy these kinds of books. However, I was just so disappointed. This is a Newbery Medal winner. So this is supposed to be the best that middle grade fiction had to offer the year that it won. I don't feel like this is the best I could have done. I think the most disappointing part of this for me, 80% into the book, it is revealed that there's a mystery. At 80%. The mystery is solved within the rest of the book. And it's like lickety split, tie a bow around it, and it's great. No. No. And I couldn't get on board with it. I just couldn't. And I couldn't. I was so mad with the last 20% of this book. And I was kind of enjoying it up to that point. One of the adventures that Jack has is he goes to the elderly lady who needs to write the obituaries, and he transcribes them for her because she has arthritis so bad that she can't write or type. So he transcribes them for her. So you get to hear all of the obituaries, and that's really cool. I loved those. And then there were these little history tidbits that were thrown about because Jack, the character, loved to read the history tidbits in the newspaper. And I liked those. It was interesting and that was fun, but I just was so irritated by the last 20% of this book. It was my lowest rated book of the month. I think it's my lowest rated book so far this year. So there you have it. So the next book that I read was Jigsaw Jungle by Kristine Levine. And I was disappointed by this one too. It had a really interesting concept and format. It was mixed media, so it was told through video transcripts, phone transcripts, text messages, emails, letters. I thought that was really cool, and I was so excited to read it. However, the main character's father disappears, and we don't know why. So the whole thing is the main character trying to figure out why her father has disappeared, using these clues that he's left with her to try to figure out what's happening. And first of all, I could not wrap my mind around what could possibly be happening in this man's life that would make him do this to his daughter. Not only to disappear, which I know happens, but then to leave behind a clue and tell your daughter to follow the clues to try to figure it out just felt cruel to me. So very cruel. And then when you find out why he left, I was very unsatisfied with that conclusion. And I was really unsatisfied with how much it seemed like they just kind of forgave him and it was just okay. And it just was fine. It was fine that he just disappeared and completely abandoned his family, his daughter. It's not fine. It's not fine that he abandoned his daughter. I had some issues with that. I liked Jigsaw Jungle more than I liked Dead End in Norvelt. But I was really expecting to like it a lot. I just thought the concept was so great. I thought the format was so great. I really was expecting to like it, and it fell flat for me, and that makes me really sad. The next book that I finished was The Aquanaut by Dan Santort, and this is a graphic novel. It really felt like I was reading a spin-off of Finding Dory because it takes place in a complex like where they go in that movie called Aqualand. And Sophia is the main character. She lives there with her uncle because her father has been lost at sea. And she is really reeling with the fact that her father is gone. And one day her father's suit, like diving suit, shows up at Aqualand. And it's being manned by these cute little sea creatures that found his suit. It's so crazy. It's so out there, but I just really liked it. I thought it was great. I thought it was imaginative and crazy. The illustrations were beautiful. It was so beautifully put together. There were intense scenes and funny scenes, and I just really liked it. The next book that I finished was 3 Keys by Kelly Yang. This is the second book in the Front Desk series, and I really enjoyed this one. This one follows Mia again. One thing that I didn't realize, that I don't remember realizing when I read Front Desk, is that it took place in the 90s. I just didn't even, it never crossed my mind that it was the 90s during Front Desk. It is very obvious that it is the 90s in 3 Keys, and it is a couple months later, because it mentions Proposition 187 and the different immigration laws. And so Mia and her family and the different customers to the hotel are dealing with anxieties around Proposition 187 and whether or not it's going to get passed. I'm so glad that I finally got to it. I really, really enjoyed being with these characters again. Mia is such a good character. Of course, As is often mentioned when you talk about the Front Desk series, it does not look to be as heavy material as it is. It just looks really fun and fluffy, and it is far from fun and fluffy. It is not a fun and fluffy series. It is real and hard-hitting, and I just really loved it. I really, really enjoyed Three Keys. The next book that I finished was Nightfall by Shannon Messenger. This is Keeper of the Lost Cities number 6. This is my ongoing buddy read with Krista from Books and Jams. I love this series so much. And number 1, number 2, I love number 1 and number 2, but 3 and 4 and now 6 are just my favorites. I love them. And I think Krista has said the same thing as well. 3, 4, and 6. Love 1, 2, and 5. Totally do, but oh man. So really excited to get on to number 7. Can't really say a whole lot about the plot because it gives away everything that's happening. But man, Shannon Messenger and her twists and turns, gotta love it. I'm loving to see the characterization of the kids becoming more mature and having more mature thoughts and ideas and situations, and she just handles it all so well, and I just really enjoy it. The next book that I finished was All 13 by Christina Soontornvat. And I read this with Krista and from Books and Jams and Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly. And this is a nonfiction about the soccer team from Thailand who was trapped in a cave for 16 days. And you know from the beginning or what the ending is, you know. But man, she wrote it in a way that you were on the edge of, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time that I was reading this book. I loved it so much. I found myself rooting for these kids and rooting for their rescuers and crying with their families. And it was just beautifully written, beautifully told. So good. This is how narrative nonfiction is supposed to be. This is the kind of nonfiction that makes kids who don't like to read nonfiction like nonfiction. It took things that could be really confusing and made them accessible to all audiences. And I just loved it for so many reasons. The next book that I finished was A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus. And this book was recommended by so many people in the Middle Grade March recommendation live, and I loved it. I'm so glad that they put this on my radar. It has Anna, Edmund, and William, who are orphaned and then evacuated from London during World War II when all the other children are evacuated. But their goal in being evacuated is to find their forever home without actually telling anybody that that's their goal. Because the idea of evacuation is that these kids would be evacuated and then they would go back home to their families. So they're supposed to keep all of this hidden from the people that they're staying with. Another reason they're not supposed to tell is they're super rich and they don't want anybody wanting them just for their money. They're in this super sticky situation, and the story is just beautiful. It's beautifully told. You just read it and fall in love with these characters. And I really loved A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus. The next book that I read was my first of 2 adult books, and that was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I read this for book club. I still don't know if I'm okay with the star rating that I gave it. Right now I'm sitting at 4 stars. It started out kind of slow for me, but it definitely held my attention, and I definitely liked it. The ending was so amazing. And I just loved how V.E. Schwab just completely brought everything back around. Nothing was ever mentioned that wasn't mentioned again in the culmination of the story. And I just really loved and appreciated that. So I don't know how anybody doesn't know what this is about, but Addie LaRue makes a deal with the devil. She gets to live forever, but nobody is going to recognize her face until one day she turns around and somebody remembers her. And it goes on from there. The story jumps from one place to the next, but not in a way that's stilted, which was what I was worried about. It really flowed together well, and I just really liked it a lot. Yeah, see, now I feel like I'm talking myself into 5 stars, and I just but it started out really slow. I don't know. I really did enjoy it, and I definitely would recommend it. That's about all I can say about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The next book that I finished was The Mystwick School of Musicraft by Jessica Khoury. This book was such a fun surprise. This book was put on my radar by a friend in an online book club that I'm in, and she was talking about this magical school where magic is made by music. And I was intrigued right away. How awesome does that sound, right? So Amelia Jones is the main character in the system, and she is dead set on getting into Mystwick, which is the premier school for Musicraft, which is the art of making magic using music, because her mother was a student there. And her mother has passed away shortly after Amelia was born. She really doesn't have a lot of memories of her mother. She lives with her grandma, and her grandma is dead set against her going into this magical school because she feels that this magic is what destroyed her mother, Amelia's mother. So Amelia wants so much to be the confident, wonderful musician, but she really isn't. And what I love so much about this one is that she's not a perfect main character where you have the magic school, where you have the chosen one, where she's not the chosen one. She is the underdog in the series, and I just love that about it. So yeah, gonna keep going with this one. It's really great on Audible. It's available in physical, which I read it back and forth physically and on audio. It's really great on audio because during parts of the story, you actually hear the music that's being played in the book because they play it on the recording, and I just love that. It is fabulous on audio. The problem with it on audio is that it is only available through Audible, but if you have Audible, it's available through Audible through the Audible Plus catalog, so it is free as a member of Audible. The next book that I finished was Marcus Vega Doesn't Speak Spanish by Pablo Cartaya. This book is about Marcus Vega, who looks, for all intents and purposes, like a bully. He's a big dude that he's big, he's tall, looks like he could, kill you. However, he is bullied a lot because he looks like he could kill you. One day when a bully makes fun of his brother who has Down syndrome, Marcus takes it upon himself to avenge his brother, and as a result gets suspended. And during his suspension, his mother decides that they should get away from the situation, and they go to Puerto Rico, which is where Marcus's dad is from. So he has family there that he's never met. So he gets to meet all of his family. It's really cool. You see all these places in Puerto Rico. It's really great characterization. I loved the characters. I loved the story. And I really loved seeing Puerto Rico. I don't know how accurate the portrayal of Puerto Rico is. However, if that is accurate, it's beautiful. So Marcus Vega doesn't speak Spanish. It was a lot of fun, and I really liked it. The next book I finished was This Can't Be Happening at MacDonald Hall. This is Gordon Korman's very first book. It was his debut middle grade novel. It follows Bruno and Boots, who go to an all-boys boarding school in Canada across the street from an all-girls boarding school. You can imagine all of the hijinks that can happen in this situation. Bruno and Boots get into so much trouble that the headmaster decides that they need to be separated. So he doesn't let them room together anymore and puts them with other roommates. Then Bruno and Boots decide that they will do anything it takes in order to get back at him for this. They cause all kinds of trouble. It's really fun. I liked it. It was good. The next book I finished was The Bookshop of Dust and Dreams by Mindy Thompson. And this book was beautiful. This book follows Rhyme and Reason, which is a bookstore whose customers come from different times. And Rhyme and Reason appears to them as they need the store in order to help and heal them through the magic of books. It's so beautiful. It's based in World War II, during the time of World War II. The main character is Poppy. Her family runs Rhyme and Reason, and they experience a tragedy having to do with the war. A family friend is killed, and her brother Al takes it especially hard. As a result, the magic of the shop is in danger of becoming compromised. It has so much fabulous world building on top of the real world. It's amazing. It connects all of these other magical bookstores that do relatively the same thing. And it's just, I can't even express how imaginative it is. I really, really enjoyed it. What I wrote down was imaginative, heartfelt, energetic, suspenseful, with lots of twists. And it definitely was that. The next book that I finished was Unplugged by Gordon Korman. This is actually the read aloud that I was doing with my 5th and 6th grade students. This is one of my very favorite books. I love Unplugged. I love the characterization of the different characters. Love the mystery, the setting, the obstacles. Really well set up and really well executed. I really, really enjoy it. It was a mixed bag for my students. A lot of them liked it. Some of them didn't like it. I would say more liked it than didn't like it. So that's a plus. So we follow Jet Baronoff, who is the spoiled brat rich kid of a multi-trillionaire. And his father punishes him for all of the trouble that he's making by sending him to the Oasis in order to heal. And the Oasis, it has no electronics and no meat. And Jet is miserable. And because he's so miserable, nobody believes him when he tries to tell everybody about all of the sketchy stuff that is happening at the Oasis. And chaos ensues, and it's so fun. I really, really enjoy it. The next book that I finished was Hidden Kingdom, which is the 3rd book in the Wings of Fire series. This one brings us to the Rainwing Kingdom in the rainforest, which is Glory's home base. as it's the third in the series, I don't want to get too into it because there is an intense amount of world building that happens in the first and second book in this series. It is a really fun series. I love how Tui T. Sutherland creates the characters of the dragons and how each tribe has specific characterizations, and it's really fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely going to be continuing. I wrote down suspenseful, intense, and twisty. The next book that I finished was The Shape of Thunder by Jasmine Warga. This was the Patreon book club pick for Krista at Books and Jams. I really, really, really enjoyed this one. It follows Cora and Quinn, who are best friends who haven't spoken in almost a year since Quinn's brother made a decision that cost Cora's sister her life. And it centers around them wanting to rebuild their friendship, but not really knowing how to do that. And it focuses on the resources that they have in order to cope with the situation that they are in. As somebody who works at a school, the lack of care given to Quinn is borderline, if not gross, neglect. And I really, really struggled with that a lot. However, the story is beautifully told. The girls are characterized wonderfully, and I just continuously wanted to know what was going to happen and where the story was going to go, and I really, really, really loved it. The next book that I finished was Yummy by Victoria Grace Elliott. This is a nonfiction book about the history of dessert. The history of dessert is told in a graphic novel format by food sprites. And these food sprites are the cutest characters ever. I just love them. The author does a wonderful job of characterizing them in the little bit of time that you actually have to give characteristics to the one that's giving the actual facts. It's just amazing. I really, really enjoyed what they did with that piece of the storytelling. I also really loved how they talked about the facts and how research works when a lot of the information isn't actually set in stone and isn't completely known. So how legends work and how every piece of information really just needs to be looked at as a possibility, and we have to come to terms with that. I really liked that aspect of it as well. It was really well researched. The illustrations were beautiful and the facts were really entertaining. I really, really enjoyed this one. The next book that I finished was Pony by R.J. Palacio. I did not know what to think about this book when I started reading it. I was very excited because it was a new book from R.J. Palacio, the writer of Wonder. But when you think of the description of this book, a young boy in a historical setting, his father is taken away in the middle of the night by 3 mysterious men. All he's left with is his best friend, who is a ghost, and a mysterious pony shows up at his door and leads him off. Paranormal, Western, historical. What is this book? I don't know. And I don't know if we ever came to a consensus in the middle grade March group read live show. I loved it. I so loved it. There were definitely things about it that I thought were just weird, but I loved it. And I loved the writing. I loved how it all came together. And I loved so much about this book. I didn't know what to rate it at first. And finally I was just like, you know what? I really loved it and gave it 5. The next book that I finished was my second and last adult book, and that was 4 Sleuths and a Bachelorette by Tracy Andrighetti, Leslie Langtree, Arlene McFarlane, and Diana Orgain. I received an ARC of this from Leslie Langtree. She has published this independently with a group of 3 other writers, and I receive ARCs from her regular publisher regularly, and so she contacted me and asked if I would like to read this, and I was overjoyed. And it's really cool. This concept is wonderful. So we have 4 cozy mystery series all combined into one novel. So we have Mary Rath, Valentine Beaumont, Kate Connolly, and Frankie Amato. So their 4 series are brought together when they are guests at a bachelorette party, and the bachelorette is missing. The groom shows up unexpectedly and a guest is murdered, and they have to figure out what is going on. So as a group, they took turns writing a chapter from their character's point of view and then continued the story. It is a wildly fun collaboration between 4 wildly hilarious women. I absolutely loved it. I adored how crazy and out there this book is, because it was everything that I want in a cozy mystery. So much. So good. And then I finished my month with Miracles on Maple Hill by Virginia Sorensen. And it follows Marley, whose family is headed out to Maple Hill to try and recapture the magic that Marley's mom felt while she was there when she was growing up. And they want to do this because Marley's dad was a prisoner of war, and everybody assumed that he had died, and it turns out that he didn't, but he's not really dealing well with being back in the United States. They're hoping that the fresh air is going to do him well, and he's going to stay up there and help fix up the old cabin that belongs to the family and just try to rebuild his life, basically. It was a really cute story. I enjoyed the back and forth between Marley and her brother. I really enjoyed the characterization. I'm big on characters, okay? I love the characterization of all of the side characters. I loved how they all fit together and came together. I loved the idea of little things being miracles, and miracles being present everywhere, and you just needed to look for them. I really loved all of those things. It was really short. Some of the in-between things that were happening, it just felt like things were happening really fast, and that was a little bit off-putting for me, but I really, really, really did enjoy this story. So there you have it. There are the 20 books that I read in the month of March. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? I would love to hear from you down in the comments, as always. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. I hope you're finding something wonderful to read, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.